there is no direct evidence to establish when the first man appeared on the surface of the earth and at which place he was born. About the evolution of early man, we may however learn something in two different ways. One, by comparing the biology of men with that of other animals, and so determining the degree of their relationship, which we call it as taxonomy. And second one, by looking at fossils and so determining their age and development, which we call it as paleontology. By comparing man with other living creatures, we know that he is a primate, one of the highest order in the mammals, having a large brain, grasping hand with nails instead of claws, and eyesight which it has been developed at the expense of his sense of smell. Primates include three shrews, that is lemurs, monkeys and apes. Man shows the greatest resemblance to apes not only in posture and means of locomotion, that is ability to move from one place to another, but in the development and coordination of his brain and hands and in the biochemistry of his blood. Man has however been distinguished from other primates, both living and fossil, means ability to make and use tools. The comparisons of living forms enables us to estimate the affinities of pausing even from their fragmentary remains, and by studying the tools and animal remains found with causal man, we can discover something of their ways of life and the environment in which they live. As described above, biological man is related to the apes and diverged from a common installed species which, not generally specialized, live both upon the ground and increased during the tertiary era, that is between 65 million years to 63 million years. The tertiary era witnessed the alpine orogeny and the emergence of mammals. It have become on the whole arboreal and vegetarian. By being able to move rapidly through a forest without sending to the ground, they are secured from capture by more powerful carnivorous land animals such as leopard or a tiger, or can pluck shoots from fruits anywhere between the ground and the lofty canopy of tropical forest. Most of these species have prehensile tail. Man has become a piped by forsaking trees for the land and has no use for a tail. The comparisons of living forms enables us to estimate the affinities of fossils even from their fragmentary remains, and by studying the tools and animal remains found with fossil men, we can discover something of their ways of life and the environment in which they lived. They are essentially quadrupeds and most species have prehensile tail. Man has become a piped for forsaking trees for the land and has no use for its tail. His feet have become fully adapted for walking or running, and the toes cannot grip a branch as can an ape. The hand, not required either for walking or for grasping branches during leaps from tree to tree, has become a precisely controlled organ which, having the thumb opposed to the fingers instead of alongside, can use a variety of tools. Thereby freer and more delicately controlled movements of the jaw, face and tongue are possible, giving man difficulty of speech. Compared with apes, the gestatorial period of human infant is 280 days instead of 240 days, and the child is dependent especially upon the mother, but also indirectly upon the father for many years, while its a mental and physical power slowly developed. Male and females therefore tend to specialize. The former obtains food and protect the family, the latter take care of the young and prepare food. Thus, the family find its origin in the mutual dependence of male, female and the young. The change of habitat to the ground from trees brought about a change in diet. To fruits, nuts and edible shoots were added animals when primitive man became a huntsman. At the same time, her growth was arrested for modern man. Apart from the head and a certain other localized parts of the body grows only sparse, very fine hairs. The skin too is thinner and less resistant to abrasion than that of the monkey. During the first 3 glacial periods, the ancestors of humanity were compelled to retreat towards the tropics. Thus, each glaciation was crisis not only but evolving pre-hominids, but for all forms of life and many species of plants and animals which flourished at the end of tertiary era failed to survive into the Holocene period, which is a recent period. Ape men moving to and fro across the globe were confronted with new perils and new economic crises which their great mental powers they have overcome. By the third interglacial periods, that is between the ฤષिs and worm glaciation, they were sufficiently advanced to be able to fashion a variety of crude tools and weapons, although we can only guess at the range of their equipment because only stone implements have survived, and we can be presumed that they also used wood, bone and perhaps skin. Certainly during the fourth, that is worm glaciation, which began about 75,000 years ago and ended 10,000 years ago, men differing but little from ourselves and spread widely in the old world. They were able to survive in more rigorous climates, not by retreat into warmer regions, but to caves where by the use of the fire and skin garments they could continue to live close to the glaciers and the ice sheets. In France and Spain, which resemble the present tundra of northern Russia respectively, remarkable cave drawings amongst other evidences of the life of the times have enabled us to learn much about this earlier race of modern men. Mankind does appear to have evolved on the whole south of the mountain zone in Eurasia and to have lived in India, Java, Western and South Asia and Northern Africa, entering Europe for especially in Southeastern Asia. Pan Africa, minuscule fragments with rather primitive features have been unearthed. It seems that Neanderthaloids and more modern races lived together in Europe and Western Asia during the later part of the last glaciations, and although the more specialized Neanderthaloids have not survived as a race, some of their physical characteristics have been identified in living Europeans. Race refers to classification of humans into relatively large and distinct population groups based on appearance through heritable phenotypic characteristics, often influenced by and correlated with culture, ethnicity and socio-economic status. Race is a concept applied in various senses even by the human biologist. In the present context, we are concerned with anthropological or biological concept of race. As a biological term, race denotes genetically divergent human population that can be marked by common phenotypes. After you have gone through this unit, you would be able to comprehend the concept of race, elucidate the controversy regarding race terminology and understand the factors responsible for formation of race, recognize the basis of racial classification and appreciate the racial classification with comparison to physical features of major races of the world. Among humans, race has classistic significance. All human beings belong to the same hominid subspecies, that is Homo sapiens sapiens, each differing from other population in the relative commonness of certain hereditary trait. Hutton has defined race is essentialist concept as a great division of mankind, characterized as a group sharing certain combination of features derived from their common descent and constitute a vague physical background, usually more or less obscured by individual variations and realized best in a composite picture. Mayr has given the taxonomic concept of definition as a subspecies is an aggregate of phenotypically similar populations of a species inhabiting a geographic subdivision differing taxonomically from other populations of the species. Dobzhansky has defined race in population concept as race are genetically distinct Mendelian populations. They are neither individuals nor particular genotypes, they consist of individuals who differ genetically among themselves. Montagu has defined race is genetically context as a population which differs in the frequency of some gene or genes which actually exchange or capable of exchanging genes across boundaries and separate it from other population of the species. Templeton in 1998 has given the lineage concept of definition as a subspecies is a distinct evolutionary lineage within a species. This definition requires a subspecies genetically differentiated due to barriers occurring in genetic exchange that have persisted for long periods. The subspecies must have historical continuity in addition to current genetic differentiations. In short, the term race is applied to a physically distinctive groups of people on the basis of their difference from other groups in skin color, head shape, hair type and physique. Anthropologists take the word race in its zoological sense. If the people of one race may be distinguished by physical markings, then they constitute a race. While dealing with the definition of race, anthropologists have considered few related facts. For example, national, religious, cultural and geographical inhabited human groups should not be confused with racial groups. The Indians or Pakistanis do not form a race, nor do the Persians or the Germans. These are nationals or religious groups. In the same way, the Dravidians do not constitute a specific race, they are linguistic groups. Therefore, one should be cautious enough in applying the term race to a particular human group. On the other hand, the concept of racial superiority or inferiority has created problems in human society. The word race is applied in a variety of ways. Various aggressive actions from first fights to the large scale riots and countrywide civil wars have stemmed from tension and misunderstanding among various races. Race science was never just human classification. It presupposed to be a distinctive relationship between nature and culture by understanding the differences in the nature and to generate different kinds of persons and the distinctive stage of cultures and civilizations that inhabit the world. Craig Venter and Francis Collins jointly made an announcement of the mapping racial classification of human genome in 2000 year. Venter stated that race is a social concept and not a scientific one. There are no bright lines to compare all the sequenced genome on the planet. When we try to apply science to sort out these social differences, it all falls apart. Stephen Palmy asserted that race is not a thing but a social relation, or in the words of Katia Gibel Mevoark, a metonym, a human invention whose criteria for differentiation are neither universal nor fixed, but have always been used to manage difference. As such, the use of the term race must be analyzed. The Aryan race was supposed to be the group of blonde hair, blue eyed, white skinned people whom Hitler wanted to dominate the world. Technically, Aryans are any people who speak one of the Indo-European languages as Greek, Hindi, Polish, German, Gaelic and English. On the other hand, Jews do not form a race, but a religious group like the Buddhists or the Protestants. Another popular belief is that although the races have become adulterated through miscegenation, marriage and breeding between different races, even now race mixture is an ongoing process, and as a result the races have got admixture. Hybridization, miscegenation is one of the factors for race formation, and at the same time it plays role in extinction or absorption of racial groups. Therefore, there was never a pure race of man, and at present also there is no pure race. The concept of so called pure race is based on wrong facts. Again, we do not have evidences to say that race mixture produces bad results from the biological point of view. Racial stereotypes persist largely because the skin color can be recognized and used to classify people and to attribute certain biological factors to all members of a supposed race. In classifying human races, most of the anthropologists do not consider the mental characteristics, that is IQ. Klinberg has very clearly stated that the scientists know no relation between race and psychology. The term race has often been used by certain individuals to justify their exploitation on other groups. Sometimes few controversies related to cultural traits and a term race also arises. Cultural traits may be acquired by one in his time, but not the racial strains. Certain populations of Northeast India have adopted Western culture, but not their physical features. Their cultural traits may mislead one, but not their physical features. However, admixture at the biological level brings changes in the racial types also. Like cultural traits, racial traits are also changeable, but the cultural traits and the term race is not related to or on any scientific basis. Race formation is a complex process where several factors are involved. These may be summarized as: number 1, mutation. The basic mechanism by which genetic variability is introduced is through mutation. Mutation is a sudden change in genes resulting in hereditary variation. As soon as a new mutant gene appears, it multiplies from one generation to another and becomes a distinctive characteristic of particular population, provided other conditions are favorable. In this sense, mutation is an important process through which races are formed. Coming to second one, natural selection. Natural selection is an important factor that operates to pattern and maintain inter and intraspecific variability when applied to the genetic levels and to the alleles operating at individual loci, as it predicts the behavior of genes under specific conditions. Selection molds the genotypes of an organism such that they produce phenotypes fitting to the environment in which organism lives. With natural selection, advantageous genes are multiplied more rapidly than the disadvantageous genes, as the latter will be eliminated by nature. Coming to the third one, genetic drift. Chance fluctuations of gene frequencies may lead to appreciable genetic differences between completely isolated subpopulations. This effect becomes stronger if the effective breeding size of population is small. In this process, increase or decrease of the frequency of a gene in a certain population does not depend upon advantageous or disadvantageous conditions of life in a particular locality, but happens merely as an accident or chance. The different frequency of gene for testing or not testing PTC in different population forms a good example of accidental fluctuation of genes. Coming to fourth one, migration. Migration plays an important role in racial differentiation. It helps in isolation, hybridization and mixing of different population with the migrants. Group of people migrate from mother population to different directions from the common center and become isolated from one another, and due to endogamy, pressure of natural selection and the process of hybridization may cause formation of races. Now, coming to isolation. Isolation may be geographical or social and is considered to be a great race maker. The natural selection and genetic drift will act effectively only when a particular population is isolated from the neighboring populations. As isolation increases, the possibility of intermarriages among groups decreases, thus introducing new genes transmitted from one generation to another by the process of heredity, resulting in new racial strains. Hybridization is a process by which genes within a species are introduced into other population, resulting in genetic combination which are entirely new. Through hybridization, genetic variation is introduced in a population called as gene flow that leads to the formation of new race. For example, the mingling of Americans and Negroes has produced a new racial population, an ongoing process. Coming to sexual selection, it is a process of selecting mates on the basis of some preferred qualities, as a result of which the sexually preferred type would become the dominant variety of the individuals. For example, in a population where blue eye color was preferred to brown color, the brown colored individual would get lesser and lesser number of mates. Ultimately, the gene of brown eye might be eliminated by this process, or the blue eyed would marry blue eyed and the brown eyed would marry brown eyed. In such case, two distinct type of subgroups would be formed. Coming to social selection. In social selection, breeding is regulated by artificially instituted barriers between socially approved individual and groups within a population, so that mating occurs between individuals preferred by such social standards rather than at random. In such situation, strong isolating mechanisms are developed which in due course may produce modifications in a population. Thus, it may be stated that mutation, natural selection, genetic drift, migration, isolation, hybridization, sexual selection and social selection etc. are the main processes responsible for the formation of racial strains. That the word race is applied for human classification on the basis of biological characteristics. Race is genetically divergent among human populations, which is marked by common phenotypes. In other words, race refers to those human groups which exhibit heritable physical differences from other human populations. Race formation is a complex process where more factors like mutation, natural selection, genetic drift, migration, isolation, hybridization, sexual selection and social selection are involved.